Welcome back to the Polish Podcast, where we embolden women in their faith and work. I'm your host, Jane Dorman. Your work matters. And at Polish Network, we provide the connection you crave, professional development you deserve, and the gospel that you need. Join us each episode as we deep dive the themes we're exploring in the Polish community, featuring a variety of guests sharing their perspectives and experiences as Christian working women. Well, whatever brought you here today, we are thrilled that you chose to join us, and we hope these stories spark a renewed sense of purpose and embolden you to flourish on your leadership journey. Riddle me this, my friends. What do Asbury University, HGTV, and hamster races all have in common? Well, believe it or not, they are all part of the captivating world of content creation within the Magnolia Network. And today's guest brings us just 1 degree away from Chip and Jo. We'll be taking a peek behind the curtain of content creation at the Magnolia Network with our guest today, from its inception to the decision-making processes in place today. And as we delve deeper into this realm of effective communication in our leadership, I'm thrilled to welcome a fellow Asburian to the show, the Senior VP of Content for Magnolia Network, Sarah Kuban. Now, fun fact, both Sarah and mine's experience at Asbury overlapped, and it's a place that's close to our hearts. And for Sarah, it was a formative experience that nurtured a profound connection with God.
But I walked onto that campus, and it was like the Lord was like, "This is where you're supposed to be." Like, I knew it from the second I walked onto campus, and when I was thinking about this whole conversation of communication, I was thinking about how even those little tiny moments of like being faithful to what the Holy Spirit is telling you to do makes all the difference in where you end up.
Now, Sarah's path to the Magnolia Network was filled with unexpected twists and turns. Following her graduation, Sarah headed back to Nebraska to be with her family. And despite having ample opportunities and experience, she encountered difficulty in finding a job. It was during this time that Sarah decided to take a more creative approach to her job search.
Then decided I'm going to move to LA because I'm going to be if I can't work with the stars, I'll work for the stars and I'll be a nanny. And
interesting.
I was out there for 2 weeks and got a phone call from from where I interned, the NBC affiliate in Lexington, Kentucky. And they were like, "Come, you want to produce your job?" And I was like, yes, I do. And I booked it back to Lexington. I was in Lexington for about a year. And then I took a job as a promotions producer at the ABC affiliate in Washington, D.C., WJLA. And I was there for about 4 years, and then realized news is very, very, very stressful and not necessarily maybe what I want to do long term. And mostly it was like it would snow and they would literally come pick you up.
Yeah.
And make you go into the office. Like, you never got a snow day working in news. You never got a holiday.
No.
So I ended up applying that winter, applying for a job a day anywhere, like in LA or New York. I wanted to get in on the network side. I didn't know what that looked like. But I apparently applied for a job at DIY Network in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I at the time I didn't even know where Knoxville was on a map. And I was like, "I'm sorry, I don't think I meant to apply for a job here." And they're like, "No, you should send us all your stuff." And so I did. And 3 months later, I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee, and
oh my gosh,
met my husband here and had babies and have not looked back. So DIY Network was a part of Scripps Networks, who owned HGTV and Food Network and Travel Channel and Cooking Channel. And my plan was get my foot in the door and then go up to Food Network in New York or Travel Channel, which was located in DC at the time, one of those places. And I was still doing the promo producing. So I was making all of the commercials for all of the series.
Although Sarah's career path had its share of detours, she eventually found fulfillment and stability in her role at DIY Network. As she contemplated her next career move, she received an invitation from the president of HGTV to consider a different career pivot.
Kathleen Finch asked me, she was like, what do you want to do? Like, she cornered me in the kitchen of the, and she's like, I hear that you have been talking to people at Food Network and you don't want to move to New York. And why don't you come talk to me? And so I went and sat in her office and we talked about other opportunities. And I said, I want to tell stories. I want to tell long form stories. I don't want to tell these 30-second promos anymore. I want to do more. And she was so kind to connect me with the person who ran the programming team at DIY. And I started, a couple months later, I joined that team and I started overseeing series for the network. And then DIY kind of merged with HG. And so I worked for HGTV for about 9 years or so, or 10 years. And then when Magnolia came along, my boss at the time, Allison Page, she was head of all of the U.S. networks for Scripps Networks at the time. Discovery we had just merged with Discovery. They had just acquired us. And Allison went over to run Magnolia Network with Chip and Jo. And I said, I want to come with you. So I jumped ship from HG, which I loved. I loved my experience there and everyone who taught me so much while I was there, but went over and helped launch Magnolia Network. So I've been here for, I think it was like 5 years ago last week that we had our first conversation. And then I officially joined in May of 2019 and we launched a television network.
Sarah's career is marked by pivotal moments, each one carrying a significant amount of risk, yet guided by what she believes is to be God's hand.
My dream was to be Katie Couric. And then I was like, no, I want to be Katie Couric's boss. Like I wanted to work for the Today Show. Like I had these big dreams. And then when it came down to it, it's like there are a lot of people, there's a lot of people fighting for these jobs. And
yes,
I am a big believer in you walk through the doors that the Lord opens, and the ones that you're not supposed to walk through, he's going to close. And I tell this a lot to college graduates, that he is going to be faithful to open the right doors. And sometimes you have to wait, and it is not fun. Yeah. It is not fun to wait for the next door to open.
It is not.
But when the riskiness of it, when I left HG to start Magnolia, that was a huge risk.
That for sure.
It was with talent who had never worked for a television. I mean, Jo had done some interning in college. But for the most, or after college, she maybe worked, but in New York, but like for the most part, it was like, you're going to go start in a world where linear television was going away. Like you're starting a television network like that, or a cable network. Like that's scary. And I remember telling my husband, I came home and I was like, Kev, I think that the Lord is telling me to go with Allison and do this crazy thing and leave the stability and the safety of HGTV, which at the time HG was like at the top, like it was like top 2 networks in the, in the country, or definitely in the top 5. And I had a great job and I was making really great shows. And I just felt like, no, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, this is where I'm supposed to go. And he's like, this is crazy. I was like, I know this is crazy. And it still feels a little crazy, but I know who's opening the doors. I know who's guiding me. I know who's leading me. And as hard as it is sometimes, and on the days that I'm like, this is too hard. This is, I don't know what I'm doing. I really I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a big believer in like fake it till you make it. Yeah. And, but on those days I'm like, I feel like a fake. I'm like, but the Lord has put me in this position. The Lord has put me where I'm at in this office with these people for a reason. And, trusting that like he's going to show me exactly what I'm supposed to do. what I'm supposed to say,
Yeah.
and opening the doors I'm supposed to walk through.
We're going to take a short break, and when we return, Sarah shares more about her work at Magnolia Network and reveals why leading with communication is crucial to success in the content creation industry. So don't go anywhere, friends. Polish Network is excited to announce our new small group facilitator training video, exclusively available on polishnetwork.org. Say goodbye to overwhelm and hello to simplicity as you learn how to lead a workplace Bible study effortlessly. From understanding your why to selecting relevant materials and facilitating meaningful discussions, we've got you covered every step of the way. Join us on polishnetwork.org and start your journey towards impactful leadership today with our small group facilitator training video. Leading with communication is key to any career. And in the world of content creation, it's the thread that holds the team together. And in the business of content creation, while communication is the priority, it can also be the most challenging skill to harness.
The one thing that I've learned is be as truthful and as honest and as authentic as possible.
Yeah.
Give as much as you tell as much as you know.
Yeah.
And whatever the consequences of it, I think that's so important. I several years ago when I was working at HG, I was working on a show, and the production company did not tell me the full truth. And so we went down and we shot the show. And while I was down on set, I realized, okay, that's not what you told me. And over here, this is not what you told me. And we had spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars on this already. Right. And I was this was my project. This is a show that I should have caught this before I went down onto set, but I didn't. And once I got on set, I realized the biggest thing was, they were lying to viewers. And I'm such a big believer in, it doesn't matter whether it's your team, whether it's the viewers that you're talking to, be truthful, be on. The best story is the real story. So yes. Let's tell the best story, which is the real story. So I got back from that trip and I had to go into my boss's office and I had to sit down and say, I know we have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this project already, but I think we have to pull the plug. And that meant telling the talent that we weren't moving forward with the series. That meant telling the production company that they lied. And because they lied, there are consequences for that. It meant facing my whole team and saying, I screwed up because I should have caught this beforehand. But I feel like little moments like that of the Holy Spirit nudging and saying, hey, be truthful, communicate. Don't try and fix this. That's the biggest thing is I think everyone tries to fix, fix issues. And instead of just let's just work together and figure out what's the best way to move forward. And let's communicate with each other and let's be honest with each other. And probably someone in that room is going to have a solution of how to move forward in the best way. And you don't have to spin your wheels trying to figure it out, because there's a lot of people that want to, lots of people have a lot of stake in whatever the issue is. So anyway, all that to say, that moment kind of became a defining moment for me where I realized that honesty and communication actually can move you forward in your career. Just being truthful and just saying, hey, something's not right and I screwed up. And being open in communication about your failures and being open in communication about your successes. I think that matters. And I think that matters to companies. And I think that matters to supervisors. And I think that matters to, I think that just matters to your own personal integrity and being able to walk into work every day and be like, I'm doing the best I can. And everyone here knows that I am as truthful as I can be.
Building trust with her team and the viewers she serves through her work is a core value Sarah holds close to her heart. It's not just about fixing things that go wrong. It's about cultivating working relationships that foster authenticity and integrity in the content they produce, because the reality is people are watching.
I think every single one of us walk into our whatever it is that we're doing that day, and people are watching us and how we respond and how we react and how we handle situations and how well we listen. Listening is a huge part of communication, being able to listen to your team or listen to your supervisor and take the feedback and take the criticism and take the good and take the bad and learn from it, and then show. And it's not overnight. I think I stepped into a role here at Magnolia where our team had felt really beat down and not necessarily always heard. And so building that trust with them was really important, and it took a long time. And then I lose the trust because then I do something dumb, and then I have to go back. And I have learned, and not even learn. I think this is just, it's not necessarily learning, but it's again, when the Holy Spirit nudges and says hey, you got to go back and you got to fix that. You got to go apologize to that person. You have to go even though that, you might be the superior or whatever, you have to go. And yesterday I had a situation with my boss where I was feeling totally uninvited, underutilized, and I was angry. Okay. We were sitting in a room, and I had to turn to her and say, I just need to apologize. I just need to confess something. I'm really angry right now. Wow. I'm angry about this situation, and I do not like this. And I don't want to be a whiner, and I do not want to complain, but I need to communicate how I'm feeling right now. And she's a big believer in come to me with if you have a problem, come to me with your recommendation of a solution. And anyway, but she at the end of our conversation, she just thanked me, because she's like, thank you for just telling me how you feel, and not in a way that was threatening or demanding, but just, I think communication and then she was like, let's solve the problem by doing it this way so that you don't feel underutilized, but you feel like we're using your strengths accordingly, And I just, it's more than just, the field of communication this is just life.
The reality is good communication can be uncomfortable, and it's also necessary to give proper feedback so that the root of bitterness and resentment will not grow rampant amongst our teams. While it's ideal to learn from good communication, Sarah also notes that her experience with bad communication has been a catalyst for deeper understanding of this leadership skill.
One of my very first bosses was he was not great. And actually that's how I got the job in DC. I stepped into this role where I was like, yes, I can be a promo producer, but I had no idea what I was doing. Not a clue. My supervisor was not super helpful. And so I ended up calling someone who was a promo, he ran the promo department in DC at this ABC affiliate. He was an Asbury grad as well. And
cool.
I just called and I was like, hey, my name is Sarah. I really, really need help. I don't know what I'm doing. Can I just send you some scripts and send you some tapes and you look at them and give me feedback? And his name was Stan Melton. And he was literally the best. He would give me feedback and I would send more and he would give me more feedback. And after about a year of doing that, he called and he's like, okay, I think you're ready for a job. Do you want to come? So I moved to DC and that's how I got my second job. And I think, we had a consultant at the time working with our station and she did tell me, she was like, you write down everything that when you have a bad supervisor, you write down all the things that you're going to do differently. And then when you're in that role, you do those differently. And I think that's important to growing a strong, healthy team under you is to take the good and the bad and realize what was, what worked and what didn't work and be better.
Yeah, I totally think that's important as we navigate our careers, taking note, because like you said, we learn from the bad and we learn from the good, and hopefully that helps us form, through the help of the Holy Spirit, and we develop that wisdom in our work. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing all that. I think that's crucial for us to hear, especially in this realm of leading with communication. Well, as the Senior VP of Content for Magnolia Network, I understand that creating content is a big piece of your job. That goes without saying. Sure. What unique challenges and opportunities do you face in the world of content creation?
I came from the home improvement television world. I came from HGTV where it was, and at the time, like 2015, 16, like that was like, everybody was watching it. And
I was,
and,
yep.
and you couldn't make a bad show. It felt like you could make a bad show, but like everything, like people were so into all of that, and they watched on the cable network. They watched on linear cable, like Tuesday night at whatever, they would come and watch Chip and Jo. And I don't know if that was Tuesday, but I think it was. But when we launched this network, the business has really, the linear business anyway, has rapidly declined. And it's my mom watching. Sorry, Mom, love you. It's my mom's 70 plusers that are watching linear cable. Sure. And then everybody else has their streaming package. And the challenge is that the market is so oversaturated with so much of the content that is specific, that we're specifically making. So we make food content, we make home content, and we make, we call it stories we're telling, like stories that are just like, man, this is so good. We have to tell this, because Chip and Jo are big believers, and everyone has a story worth telling, and we want to tell it. So if it's like, wow, that's so cool, let's figure out how to make a show out of that. Yeah. So we have these three buckets, but there's food content everywhere. Like, what's going to make our content stand out? And there is home content everywhere. It feels like you cannot break through with new talent right now. And we have some really, really fun shows that nobody's watching, and it's frustrating and it's hard. And it's like, what do we do? Like, what's next? So, we've had to take a hard look at our content and adjust to where's the white space in this world, and where is, we're now, we merged with Warner Brothers, and so now we are Warner Brothers Discovery, and we, our team is actually, we sit under HBO, and so we're really looking at the Max product and what shows are on Max and what shows aren't on Max, and what the other streaming services offer that we don't offer over here. And I think the fun thing that we're working on right now is that we have this, Max doesn't have a ton of family friendly fun content.
Sure. Yeah.
We call it over here watch together content, stuff that you can sit down and, watch with your kids and think, it's safe for them. It's fun for them. It's safe for me. It's fun for, like everyone can sit in the room and enjoy it. So we have been really working hard over here on our team to, we've slowed down a lot on the home and food content. And even though that's Chip and Jo's thing, and we'll continue to make, fixer uppers, and we have some fun stuff coming, in the next year, we will also, we're really like diving into this family-friendly fun content that Netflix really does so well. And hopefully people will click on Max and want to watch. We have a show with hamsters coming.
Are you serious?
Where humans are going to be racing hamsters to see who is the more dominant species. And you would be surprised. And our little hamsters are in boot camp right now. So we're getting weekly video updates from the hamster trainer. And what? So we have that really fun show coming. We have a roller skating dance competition show that's cool. We are about to go into production right after the holidays. We're really excited about that. We have a show about folks who for years or decades, they've put off their dreams. Like, I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be go into comedy or into stand up or whatever.
Yeah.
But for some reason, life got in the way, and it's like, here's your second chance. We're going to give you a second chance, and we're going to put them in front of some judges, and we are going to. It's ultimately like an elimination competition, and at the end, they're going to stand in a room full of like talent scouts and agents and managers and see if they can land some deals. So it's fun. It's like, this is stuff that I haven't had the opportunity to work on before, but it is really, really fun to develop them and to dream a little bit and to not make another home show. As much as I love home renovating, I think it's fun. It is about going where the audience is going and following the audience, and like, what are people watching, and what do people want, and what are people not watching, and listening to that, and then developing in this new space that you're like, I think it's going here. And it's hard because you want to be in the zeitgeist, but it takes so long to make these shows that it's like, oh gosh, if we make this, is the moment going to be gone? So it's trying to get ahead of that and seeing what people are watching on TikTok and what people are clicking on social media and what they're watching in scripted, and how do we make an unscripted type version of that? So,
that's fascinating to me. Just, like how you were saying it was all in linear TV. Now we're really going towards streaming, and the market is very saturated with like similar content. And so what's fascinating and exciting for me to hear, just because this is kind of like my wheelhouse, like I love thinking about content creation and like, what are people into? Where is it saturated? Where's the white space? Like you said, where like things are, needs are not being met in the entertainment portion. And it's such a collaborative process, like you are working collaboratively with so many different people. How do you still stay aligned to the vision, within your team, the vision for the network, as you create that content, because there's so many voices involved. So how do you I know, navigate that and keep it still aligned with the vision? Like, what is the vision for Magnolia Network?
I mean, I think the vision is to tell really great stories.
Yes.
And however, and I think, from the get-go, we wanted to make an impact. What we often hope that our viewers are doing, it's a call to action. So, inspiration to, actually go out there and do it. So like, we talk a lot about watch our shows, and maybe you'll get done with our show and you'll turn it off and you'll want to go change out your throw pillows, or you'll want to go hug your kids, or you'll want to go put your cell phone away for a while and just like be present with your people. And, we want the viewing time when you sit down and you watch Magnolia content, we want it to feel like time well spent. Oh, I've got it. Inspiration to action. There we go. Is that what I said?
Wonderful. Inspiration to action. I like that.
But we want people to hear really great stories and then be inspired to go do. So, we actually talked early on about how we don't actually want people sitting down watching hour after hour. Now we're like, yes, please sit down and watch hour after hour. But we want it to be something where you watch one of our shows and you feel like, let's go make dinner for the neighbors, or that recipe looked really good. I wonder if my kids want to come help me. We want it to feel like time well spent. And, even as we kind of stray away from the food and the home a little bit, I mean, it's still going to be very much part of our ethos. It is who Chip and Jo are. It is who Magnolia is. We still want it to be time well. We want you to be able to have conversation with your kids about what you're watching. We want you to learn something. We want you to, we want it to be not only fun, but also, something that that you can talk about with people. And it's like, gosh, this feels like good content. It's good, clean, I don't know, like life-giving. I think that's important to Chip and Jo. I think that's important to our team. And it is hard, especially when you kind of merge teams. So we've done a lot. If you've read anything in the news about Warner Brothers, like there's been a lot of cuts, and we've had a lot of teams merge, and we have this HBO team that is really merging with our Magnolia team. And we have been living this brand and living this Chip and Jo vision and sitting in rooms with them and really trying to like listen and then be able to like soak in the brand and be able to give that to viewers. And I hope that's what we're doing in you know, we have our content, the way we shoot it is very premium looking. And we hope that they're just really good stories, but it's hard when you have some new TV people come in and try to, and it's like, hey, don't forget the vision. Don't forget like why we're doing this. We started this because, I think about my own story. The reason that I came over to Magnolia is I was working for HGTV, and I had been on maternity leave, and I came back from maternity leave, and we were sitting in a room, in a green light room, and we were going around there. There was a pitch called My Alimony Dream Home.
Okay.
And we went around the room and we voted like we often do, like raise your hand if you think this is a good show. Raise your hand if you do not think that we should be making this show. And I clearly was like, I do not think we should be making this show. And sometimes, you know, divorce is clearly necessary. Like there are times when it's like, this marriage is not working and we have to get out of it. And there's you know, lots of reasons for divorce, but it's always the death of something. It's the loss of something. It is never like, yay, we're getting I mean, maybe that's your story. I don't know. I have not met one person that said, I'm getting divorced, and I did not say, oh, I'm so sorry. And to celebrate that, to celebrate the like, and I come from a divorced family, so it hits me a little, you know, a little more sensitive to it, but like to celebrate the, yay, we're getting alimony money. Let's go buy a house. This is going to be great. I got to start my life. It feels icky. It feels like this is not the story I want to be telling. And I remember I got outvoted, and they made the pilot, and the pilot didn't work. But I went down to my desk that day, and I wrote on a Post-it note, I want to be a part of stories that bring families together. And I tucked it away in a drawer, and I went and got my nails done, because that's what I did when I was and that was in February, and it was November that this new, and I just kept, I remember like looking online a lot of like any jobs anywhere. I'm like, Young Life, are they hired? Like, sure. Should I go work for Compassion? Should I get everything all together and just go tell great stories? And I ended up, in November, when this was announced on Jimmy Fallon, I met with Allison, and she was like, let me show you the very first, like, it was like Microsoft Word document that Chip put together, and or their team put together. And it said, we want to be a part of stories that bring families together. And it was the exact thing that I wrote on my Post-it note. And that was the first thing I saw about Magnolia. And that was the moment that I was like, oh gosh, I got to be a part of this. Oh gosh, God, this is like exactly what you know, like this was my vision. And that's when I went home and told my husband that I think I have to leave HGTV. And he's like, what? Like, you pay bills? No. That's that risk of like walking through those open doors, even though you don't know what's on the other side of it. And I can honestly sit here and say, almost in 2024, that like, I don't know what's on the other side of this. I don't know what happens when, you know, this is done. And I don't know where this goes, but I do know that I want to make content that brings families together. And this I don't think by making shows about humans and hamsters racing is, as much as it feels funny for Magnolia, I don't think it takes away from anything that we dreamed about at the very beginning of like, families together on the couch. We want people to be laughing together. It might not be as like pretty and beautiful and curated as our Joe content, but this is the fun Chip content that I think the world's been waiting for, and we're going to try it. So.
It feels very on brand for him from what I've seen. I really appreciate you sharing that with us, Sarah, because it's hard to be that person in the room where you said you got outvoted, but you spoke up, you used your voice, you communicated your point of view to the team. And even though they still moved forward, that was a moment, it feels like, for you where you just was like, what do I want? What do I want to do? Is this the right place? And I think all of us have that moment at some point in our career. It looks different, but it's like, what do I want to do? And you wrote it down. And I feel like God used that as a moment when the time was coming for that door to be opened, for you to step through this new door. And I mean, it's so God that Chip or whoever put this document together. And that was like one of the first lines in there that was aligned with what you wrote on that Post-it note. And that was just like a God moment of like, yes, oh my gosh, okay, let me go talk to my husband about this, because this feels risky and scary and crazy, but also exciting, I'm sure, as a part of that whole process. I see the evidence of the work that you and your team do through the Magnolia Network. I'm a viewer. My mom's a viewer. And I think I shared with you in like our meet and greet conversation, like, stories that inspire people to action. Like every single time, I'm a huge food content person. So like, I like your Zoe Bakes. I like, Magnolia Table, and I just sit and I watch these things. And like, I think I shared the pie episode. Like, I want to go make a pie now for somebody, and that's like a legit thing. Like, I love baking and all that. And just like, I want to be Zoe's friend. Like, I want to go to Minnesota and,
Zoe would be your friend. She's so great.
That's what I feel like. So I just
porch, sit down. I will make you cookies. It'll be great.
Oh my gosh. Yes. That cookie episode too was legit, so, but anyway, I really just appreciate the work you guys do, and it's working, and I can't wait to see more about these hamsters in the racing.
I know. Can I tell one more story about?
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
We have a show with one of the things about Chip and Jo, everybody has a story worth telling. And a lot of times in other positions that I've been in, we would get talent in, and it's like, they're too old. Oh, they're too this. Oh, they're too that. And there's a show that came in for Magnolia, about a guy who is a craftsman, and he uses old world ways of fixing things to be able to like restore woodwork. And he is called upon he has done things for all sorts of people. His name's Eric Hollenbeck. Eric Hollenbeck, sorry. And at the time he was 75 years old, and he just sat there in the like casting Zoom, and he smoked his pipe, and he talked about the importance of doing things the right way and not rushing through things. And we all watched that, and we were mesmerized by him. And we're like, we have got to make this show. And we did. We made a show called The Craftsman. And in every episode, Eric sometimes only fixed one window for 30 minutes. That's all he did. But he told stories. He taught his team. He talked about his past. He wove it. We are big believers in like multi-layered storytelling. So it's not just about the before and after, but it's about the journey that the people go on and what happens, and like trying to peel back all these different layers and tell these different stories within the main story. And Eric, he is thoughtful, and he has a very, very rich, deep history. He served in the military. He has a lot of PTSD, a lot of trauma about his time overseas. And really like working through that. And he shares that in the show. And Eric probably weekly gets letters from people who have said, you watching that episode changed my life. Or I was able to go down and he, in one of his stories, he talks about how, when he was really dealing with a lot, trauma from the war, he went down to the ocean and he had all these rocks, and he just threw all these rocks in the water one by one, like naming his trauma or naming whatever it is that was. And he talked about how freeing that was. And then he got up from that beach and he went home and his life changed. And, and some of these people write in and they're like, I went and did that and my life has not been the same. You sharing this story changed me. And every time he sends me an email or his wife sends a note or something that just says like, hey, I want you to read this one that came in, or this story just came through. And I will sit at my desk in tears. And I've sent this to Joe. I've sent this to my boss, Allison. And I've said, guys, if we did one thing right, we made this show, if we changed this one person's life through this network, it was worth it. And I think that's when you talk about like the vision of Magnolia. What I love about Chip and Joe and what I love about Magnolia and what I love about this team that I work on, they're so great. It's like, we're all like, if there's one person's life that can be changed, that was worth it. And millions and millions and millions of dollars have been spent, but it's like, and I think that's the gospel, it's like, it's like God would do anything for your one life to be changed, millions and millions and millions of dollars spent so that you can experience freedom in Christ. And I love that about this network. I love that we measure success differently here. And yes, we're like, we need ratings, but also I think every single one of us that work on this, we don't necessarily measure success on the ratings. It is like, did we tell a great story? Did we inspire people? Did we change someone's life?
We're going to push pause on this conversation, and when we come back, Sarah's going to take the hot seat in our Ask Me Anything segment, so don't go anywhere. Recent reports indicate that isolation, loneliness, and lack of leadership growth opportunities weigh heavily on working women today. And these are just some of the many reasons why the Polish Network is on a mission to embolden women in their faith and work. And we invite you to join us as a Polish partner. Visit polishnetwork.org/give and help us ensure a steady foundation for women to find the vital community they crave, the professional development they deserve, and the gospel they need. Welcome back, friends, to the Polish Podcast. We hope you're enjoying our conversation today with Sarah Kuban. Now it's time to add a dash of spontaneity and a sprinkle of fun to the show. It's time for Ask Me Anything. Sarah, this is how it works. This is a chance for us to kind of peel back the layers to get to know the woman behind the work, the quirks behind the expertise. And I'm just going to ask you a couple questions here that I and our audience have curated because we just want to follow our curiosity to know more about you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So you have mentioned quite a few projects that you've been involved in. Is there one that just holds a special place in your heart?
Every show that I've worked on Magnolia, almost every show, has been so fun and like such a. But years and years and years ago, I was feeling pretty frustrated in this. I was actually like maybe 2 years into not the Magnolia job, but my job at HG.
Yes,
where so how it works is like you oversee a bunch of shows. A bunch of series. So I was like overseeing kitchen crashers and yard crashers and I hate my bath and whatever the shows were at the time. And I probably had like 17 shows and I was learning a whole lot, but I was still pretty young. I mean, I still think I'm pretty young in this.
Yeah, you are.
I was just feeling very frustrated and a mentor at the time sat me down and she said, you need to learn how to develop shows on your own. You don't need agents bringing you shows. You don't need production companies bringing you shows. Like you have a brain, use it, make shows.
Okay.
What shows should people watch? And I was frustrated with that answer because I wanted the easy way out of not having to think and having just a production company say, this is a great show. Take it, pitch it to your team.
Sure.
It's a win.
Yes.
But I was watching the Today Show one morning, and Jen Hatmaker, I don't know if you know Jen, she was on the Today Show, and she was talking about this blog that she wrote called The Worst End of School Year Mom Ever or something. I think it was kind of like the blog that like launched her.
Okay.
And it was hilarious. And she was so funny. And I was like, I wonder if she likes to paint walls. I wonder if she wants to renovate anything in her house, because she's funny and it would be a great show. So there's another Asbury alum, Esther Fleece, and she worked in the publishing world. And I emailed her and I was like, Esther, do you know anybody who works with Jen Hatmaker? She's like, oh yeah, we have the same, I don't know. She somehow connected me. And a couple days later, I got on a phone call with Jen and I told her what I did. And I was like, would you guys ever think about, selling your house? And well, she's like, I don't paint walls. I was like, okay. I don't really do we don't really do anything handy. And I was like, okay. And then I said, well, what about like, they had 5 kids. I said, what about like selling your house and moving into a house and renovating it while you live in it? And she was like, I have 5 kids and 2 of them don't even speak English. Like she just adopted 2 kids from Ethiopia. And she's like, 2 of them don't even speak English. I cannot renovate no.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, if you ever decide that you want to do some renovation, call me, because I think your family would be really fun on TV.
Sure.
And a couple days later, she called me back and she said, okay, we'll do it. I was like, what? And she did. Her and her husband at the time, Brandon, they sold their house. They bought a fixer-upper in Buda, Texas. They went knocking door to door, asking people like, are you going to sell your house? There's a couple houses I think that they were interested in. And then their current house, I think Jen is still there. We did it. We did it over a series, and we watched this family, and these, like one of their sons, Bent, like he had never had a room to himself, and they created this room for him. And
wow.
So we followed their journey of moving from their old house to the new house with 5 kids, listing their house, getting their kids in and out of the house and it was a real authentic story of like nothing was made up. We just followed the process of whatever. I mean, Jen would probably say this was made up and this was made up, but in my mind, I thought we were just following the authentic story. And we followed them as they went on this adventure of renovating this house and making it their dream home. And one of my bosses at the time, Courtney, she went on to run Food Network and now has a production company, but she came up to me this was my first show that I had done totally. Like I created it. I had the vision for it. I edited the video at my desk of like the little sizzle tape that I showed our team. Yeah. And Courtney came up to me after that first episode and she put her hand on my shoulder and she's like, Sarah, I was Sarah Seaton at the time. Sarah Seaton, like you did it. And I was like, did what? And she's like, you made a great show. I was like, oh. So that was just that first episode. And as the episodes came in, I got a phone call from Kathleen Finch, who now Kathleen runs all of the U.S. networks for Discovery, Warner Brothers Discovery. She is over cable, really. Like she. But Kathleen is who kind of helped launch my career in this world and has really was a mentor for many, many years. And she called me and she was like, I was just going to watch one episode while I was eating my lunch. And 4 episodes later, I can't stop watching because this family was so compelling. And I think it's like, that was a moment that I realized, like, you have good ideas too. Like, follow your gut. Follow what you know is like, this is good. This is funny. This is authentic. This is real. This is not fabricated. And you know it. You don't have to be in my job and you don't have to have my experience to know that like, this is a good show. So like, anyway, that was probably my favorite show because I feel like that was like a turning point in making good television. Yeah, no, I love that story, Sarah. That's certainly inspiring. And what
I don't know, that it's like you did it. You did it. You
I'm like,
yeah.
I still am like, did I really? And then here we are, 8 million shows later.
Exactly. Look at you go. Well, I have one more question for you. I know the media life can be stressful. It can take up a lot of your time. You got a family at home. How do you balance work in your personal life? And do you have any self-care practices that you do?
Ooh, no self-care because I have 3 kids under the age of 7, and I probably should be better at like that.
Sure.
I'm not. I'm like, whatever.
That's okay.
My secret is my family comes first, always, no matter what.
I love that. I love that.
This is a job, and I love it, and I feel like I'm good at it, and I love my team, and I want to support my team. But my message, even to my team, is your family comes first. Your mental health comes first. You want to go on vacation? Go on vacation. Do not check your email. Do not respond. Do not pass your shows off to people who are not on vacation. Like I'm leaving today at 3:30 because my kids have piano at 4. And it is important to me that I take my kids to piano. Actually, I will say this too. You can't have it all. You can't be a great mom and a great friend and a great spouse and a great employee and a great boss and a great leader. Like you can't, like something's always going to be tipping one way or the other.
Yes.
And it's when you get too far tipped that you're like, maybe I should come back this way a little bit. Maybe I should.
Sure.
And
sure.
There are times when I'm a really rock star mom, but I'm a really bad employee. And there are times when I am a really great wife, but I am not a great mom. And there are times, and I think there's grace for all of that, but realizing like what is most important in your life. And, our company has seen this a lot this year with all the layoffs. It's like, this could end in a second, but that's your like those little people that you're investing in, like they're more important than anything else in this world. And so that's how I balance.
Yeah.
I like to close the computer and watch movies with my kids. Because
there you go. What's your favorite movie?
We're real into Home Alone these days.
That's awesome.
We watch it all year long.
Do you really?
Every single one of them. Oh my gosh.
I love it.
In the stinking pandemic, and now we can't. And they just love Kevin McAllister.
Oh, he's great. Oh, it's one of my top 5 Christmas movies for sure. Well, Sarah, thanks for sharing with us. Here's the thing, friends. We want you to be a part of our conversation. We want your burning questions, your curious musings, and your wilding wonderings about our guests. So if there's something you've always wanted to ask or wanted to know more about, here's your chance to learn more. Go to our website, polishnetwork.org. Be a Polish Podcast MVP and send in those questions today. You'll get a mention and insight into your favorite guests. We can't wait to dive into the queries and unveil the surprises that await. So send in those questions today. Sarah, to wrap up this conversation, it's just been such a joy hearing about your story, sharing about your work. For those aspiring to lead with communication, what actionable steps can someone take to enhance their leadership through effective communication? Any advice for us?
Start today with being honest. Start today with leading with integrity. If there are situations at work or in life or whatever, and it's not going the way that you think, stop, pause, go back to what's true, and then start communicating. I would not be where I am had I not communicated what I wanted. And I think as women, we don't do that. We don't communicate what we want. We sit and we fester and we think, if only I should be that. And sometimes the truth is your bosses or your supervisors or your employer or the person that you want to hire you has no idea of what you really want. And I think as women, we need to start standing up for ourselves more. Not so much standing up, but just being truthful and being honest about what we're capable of and where we feel underutilized and where what we want. Even salary. What do you need? What do you need to be able to do your job as effectively as possible? And so I think that would be the first thing that I would say is start being truthful with yourself, being truthful with the people around you, and creating some sort of, open door policy that your team or creating that for yourself, that you're able to speak to your, your direct reports or the people that are above you, being able to have open communication. I think changes everything.
That's a word for all of us to use our voice, advocate for ourselves, and to communicate what you really want. So, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today. How can people follow along with the work you're doing or connect with you?
Watch Magnolia Network.
Yes.
Watch Max. Everyone go subscribe to Max. I think there's some cheap options out there, so go subscribe. You can find me on LinkedIn.
There you go. LinkedIn is great. Yeah. Yes, you can connect with Sarah on LinkedIn. We will have that linked in our show notes. And if you want to connect with her, reach out to me and we can make that connection. How about that?
Perfect.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us today. What a treat to learn more about you and the work that you do with Magnolia Network. Today's conversation with Sarah Kuban has reminded me how powerful a story can be. But how about you? What is your key takeaway from today's conversation? Here are 5 more of mine. Leading with communication means leading with authenticity and being guided by integrity. Asking yourself, what do you want to do, can help you focus your discernment and pave the way forward. We can learn valuable lessons from both good and bad communication experiences. Success is not necessarily measured by ratings. Instead, we ask ourselves, did we tell a great story? If one person's life can be positively impacted, then the effort was worthwhile. Well, let's compare notes. I want to know what your key takeaways are from our conversation today. So go ahead and post those comments below in the YouTube comments or on the Instagram post for this episode and let me know what's resonating with you. As we draw near to the end of this episode, I want to extend our deepest appreciation to those who make the Polish Podcast possible. The Polish Podcast is supported in part by a grant from Coca-Cola Consolidated. A special thanks to Sarah Kuban for reminding us of the importance of authenticity in our communication and the profound impact of the stories that we share. To our listeners, thank you for your unwavering support, your engagement, your feedback. That drives us to create content that's resonating with you. A heartfelt thank you to the Polish Network for cultivating a community where working women can thrive and connect. Thank you to White Oak Christian Church for your partnership and generosity in the production process of these episodes. And as we consider the multiple layers of the stories we listen to here on the show and the stories we're living each day, remember this.
Everyone has a story worth telling.
Be sure to stay connected with us on social media and our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you could, rate and review the Polish Podcast as well. Well, until next time, this is Jane Dorman signing off. Keep moving forward and remain emboldened.